Can you read it out, Nana?
Yeah. I shall remember when Nana was, what?
About 9.
About 9.
Williams.
Was brought by
the ambulance.
Ambulance having been struck over the head and money taken from the
car.
£100.
Mr. Smith.
Not William.
William.
That's my father.
Ah.
Not Charles.
Yeah. It says Mr. Smith told William he had to pay it back out of his wages every week.
Yeah, he did.
What was that about?
Well, my father was an auctioneer, and he had a good business going in Whitley Bay. The census, it had a deficit, everything was going wrong in the country. Lost his business, so he took a job with an estate agent. In those days, well, I suppose they still do, an agent had built a whole lot of houses.
Yeah.
And they were all rented, and Daddy had to go and collect the rents, and that was his job.
Oh, really?
Because he was an auctioneer. But everyone lost their jobs. It was hard times, 1930s.
That would have been terrible.
I was 5. And I remember that where my father had his own business, and it collapsed because of the business situation, lots of business. And so he used to go and collect the wages, and he collected the rents.
Yeah.
And one night he got into the car, ready to go away, and somebody knocked him on the head. He was sitting in the car when he got out, to get the rent.
Yeah.
And had taken the money.
No.
And Daddy was knocked out, and I remember, it must have been about 5 or 6.
Gosh.
Daddy being brought in an ambulance back home to my house. They didn't take him to hospital in those days. They took him home and said, stay in bed for a couple of days and then you'll be all right.
Yes.
And there was £100 had been stolen. That was his rent money that belonged to Smith, the owner of the houses.
Yeah.
And Daddy had to pay it back.
He didn't?
Because it was stolen, yes. Smith was a greedy old man, pretty wealthy. He had his own aeroplane and things. And my father had, out of his salary, had to pay so much a week, month.
But it wasn't his fault.
I know, it didn't make any difference. He lost the money.
That's terrible. He was hit over the head with it. It was stolen.
Yeah.
In greed and in anger.
And this man said, you've got to pay it back. It was in your possession.
That's terrible.
And so Daddy used to pay it back every month.
That's awful. And £100 then would have been like...
a lot of money.
It would have been like equivalent of £1,000 in this day. My goodness.
And it was pretty bad. Yeah. And money taken from the car. Told William he had to pay back out of his wages every week.
God.
Nana
remembers.
He's got 2 ambulances carrying him in.
Oh, yeah.
So that he would have to recover after calcification. Wars. War were being called.
Oh, 1938 to 39.
Yes, that were people being called because the war was started. Nana, Mum and Dad had Nana when Mum was 21 on her birthday and Dad was 7 years older. Family was still living in London. Children were being evacuated to the country. William and Nora didn't want that to happen, so went to boarding school in Epping Forest, that's right, away from the possibility of bombs. William, my father, was called up in the army, but was found to be colourblind. So he was told he had to run a factory instead, and he hated that.
Really?
He'd been a farmer out, an auctioneer, outdoors, everything.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, during the war, you were either called up for the army and the Air Force, and if you didn't pass because his eyes weren't good, he had to go into the factory and hated it.
Did he go there every day then? That was his job?
Yeah, he had to
How long did he do?
No choice. He had to go into the factory.
Oh, no.
Because it was either Army, Air Force or factory. Wouldn't pass him for his eyes. He had colourblind.
Yeah.
And so he didn't pass for the Army or the Air Force. So he had to go in the factory. And he hated it, as you can imagine. A man who'd
been outside in the fields, fresh air, climbing trees. Yes. How old were you?
About 5.
So what happened? Where did you go when he was going out to the factory then? And he was
going daily. We lived in a house.
So were you at school?
Yes.
And your mum Was your mum there
Yes,
when you
and
were
she got a
5?
job as well. Everybody was working with the
So
war.
who was looking after you and taking you to school?
Well, taken to school, and then Mummy went to work.
Can you remember
Yeah.
where did your mum work?
Pardon?
Where did your
In a
mum work?
factory. No choice. You either had to. You
What
had to
kind of
work.
stuff? What was he doing in the factory? Do you know what her job was and
I
what was
can't
his job?
even remember it. I was only young. I can't remember it.
And then you moved. Did you move? What else does it say in there? Because
Yes,
then
Daddy got a job back. He got a
he
job with Wooler. That's a village like this place, bigger.
yeah.
As an auctioneer, which was his trade. He trained for being an auctioneer for 7 years. It took training.
Wow.
I've even got his. Funnily enough, I found his papers the other day.
Have you?
He passed.
Yeah.
At 7 years it took to be an auctioneer.
My goodness. Wow.
Because they had to know all about Georgian silver, all about Georgian furniture, all about Edwardian,
Whoa.
a
So
lot. Yes.
gosh, that's a lot of work that must have gone into him
Into
training
being
to
an
do that.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was 7 years it
Yeah.
took to be trained as an auctioneer, because something would come in, and he could tell whether it was Edwardian, Georgian, or what have you,
Yeah.
and so on, and so it was tough. It was tough for them.
So so he went and that was his job after the
Yeah.
factory.
Well,
How-
after that, he had to
He
go to
did-
the factory.
No, but he
But-
was, and then he
and
got
then
a job
he
as an
got the
auctioneer.
job in Wooler
And how old?
as an auctioneer.
And that was in.
I would be about 15, 14.
So he stayed doing that factory job up until you were 15.
Yeah.
That's a long time
Well,
to do a job that you don't like. No, 5. That's 10 years.
15.
So if you were 5, he would have done that job for 10 years.
Probably, hating every minute of it.
That's awful. But how did he find that job as an auctioneer?
Well, if lots of people were being called up,
Yeah.
so consequently, any auctioneer that was under 35 was
Yeah.
being called up for the Army and the Air Force. He
Oh.
couldn't go because he's colourblind.
Yeah.
So when they advertised, he used to look in it every week,
Yeah. For an auctioneer that could come in.
Who wasn't called up,
'Cause-
so he applied
yeah.
for the job and got it. So that's how he ended in Wooler, because he got the job there as an auctioneer. And he couldn't be called up because of his colour blindness, you see.
Yeah.
And so yes, I mean about 14 when we moved there. Yeah, it was nice, lovely. The fun was every week there was a village hall and there was a dance every
Yeah.
week, because everywhere was soldiers and Air Force. So consequently, the village hall had a dance every weekend. So I had a wonderful time.
Brilliant. You would have had
Yeah.
lots of fun.
Oh,
And
lots
this
of-
was because, did you move then to Wooler from wherever this place was with the
Newcastle,
factory?
yeah.
Newcastle. So when you were 5, you moved from
No, I was young.
Wooler
Oh.
no, from Newcastle to Wooler. Coco,
I was
do you want a
15
drink of
when I
water?
moved there, 14.
Oh, really?
Yes, so we had to put up with the factory job.
Coco! So how was he having to travel then to the factory job?
Well, we lived in
Everyone-
Newcastle for a while. He had to move and live. We lived with my Auntie Betty
Oh, really?
because things were a bit tight and tough.
Yeah.
And Auntie Betty had a biggish house, so we lived with her for a while.
And this was where?
Until
This is
he
in
got
Wooler.
enough money, in Newcastle.
Oh, in Newcastle, yeah.
And we had enough money for Daddy to get a job in Wooler, and he was able to get a house, a cottage. And so we had the cottage. And he had enough money saved to put a deposit down and then paid the mortgage, Oh, it must have been tough, pretty tough.
I must have been so hard. I don't know how people survived or paid
Yeah,
or.
they did survive. My mother
Yeah.
really was quite posh, really.
Yeah.
And so it was quite hard for her, for what was happening,
Yeah.
but there we are. And so we had the house in Wooler.
And they just had you. You didn't have
Yeah.
any brothers and sisters.
No,
She'd never
no,
had any more children.
No, she had a hysterectomy at the same time. Evidently it wasn't all straightforward, It was
What,
very-
after she'd had you?
Yes.
Straight away? What,
I
just.
don't know exactly, but sometimes she
Yeah.
had to have a hysterectomy, whatever.
Gosh.
I think I'd be about 5. I remember being in hospital. She was in hospital. some reason, I don't know why, but it was. She
Yeah.
had to have it. And so we lived in a flat above some shops. And then Daddy got a bit of money, and we got a house in an. Actually, I was working for an estate, like we have estates, you know now.
Yeah.
And Smith owned this estate, and Daddy used to collect the rents. And then we had a house. So I must have been about 6 or 7, and we had a house.
Mm.
You know, not in a flat. So it was pretty tough.
And then what age? She died quite young, didn't she?
Yes,
What age?
58.
And how old were you when she died?
30. No,
She was very young.
yes, 58. So I must have been about 35, I think, 35, 36. Yeah.
Why did she die?
Heart angina. She had heart trouble.
Oh,
And she
God.
died of a heart attack. You know.
God, do you remember being told that? Do you remember who
going
told
into
you?
hospital.
Or going into hospital, or how it
She
happened?
was in hospital with angina, which is a heart disease.
Yeah.
And she died.
Do you remember visiting her and somebody phoning you and saying, your mum's in hospital, you
Yeah.
really need to come quickly?
No. Went with Daddy to Mummy. Don't remember it very clearly, I guess. What was that?
Oh, that's Richard.
Open the door.
Ah. Oh, it's locked.
It's locked, silly me.
Where's the key?
We kept-
These ones.
There. Wait. Oh,
Hold
dear.
on.
Hold on.
Hold on.
Yeah, if we didn't.
All right.
Come
Hello.
on.
Hi.
That's exhausting.
Hello. Is it? Why?
You can carry 2 of them.
Pardon?
Did you? You had to carry 2 children all the way home.
No
Look.
way, no.
Yeah. 2 of them.
How did you manage that, Daddy?
You're a very clever thing.
Oh, was it good at the park?
That was
No. Why?
I stung myself.
You didn't. You stung yourself. How?
on a nettle.
Let's have a look. Oh dear. Have you got a dot leaf?
Yes.
Oh, can I have a look at your sting? Did Daddy spit on it?
No.
You have to spit on the dot leaf. That's the trick, and then you rub it in. Do you want me to spit on it?
No.
Do you want to spit on it? Oh.
Alright.
Oh, Tobes.
Pink things up there.
Would you like a drink?
Find one of the drinks up.
There's Savlon upstairs in the drawer if you want to.
Connie, you have this one, darling. Oh.
Would you like a biscuit, you two?
Would you like a biscuit? Okay. What's wrong? Hold on. I'm just... Come on. Alright, are you alright? Oh, no. What would you like, Toby?
Would you like a biscuit?
You'd like a plus.
What's he shouting for?
He stung his finger on a stinging nettle. Right, what we need to do is...
Alright, it's only, just give him a plaster.
Should we... Nan, have we got a plaster? A plaster. Have you got a plaster?
Well, you don't have plaster on the sting.
Toby likes having plasters. Oh, they're in the they're in the car, Rich.
Oh, I haven't got one.
Do you want to go and get them?
Yes, I haven't got plasters.
Nanny, you should... Would you want some of ours?
Sash, don't let Corinne drink that in this room because she squeezes all the liquid out.
All right, this is okay. So
Where are
Toby
the
have a
keys?
bit first. I have no idea actually. Oh, there's the.
Toes, calm
She's
down.
alright.
Calm down. Get your plaster.
We'll go get you a plaster.
Mama.
Yeah.
Mama.
Daddy's coming back. He's just getting some plasters, Quona.
Don't
It's
let
just-
her take the key, that's
No.
important.
Come on then, come and sit back here. Come and sit on my lap. Look, that's it. Good girl. So Nana, carry on. Quona's just gonna have something to eat. So at the time, you can't remember. Like you remember your mum, but not clearly. Like she was poorly.
No. But she had angina, which
Yeah.
is a heart disease
Yeah.
for years.
Yeah. I'll come and sit here, Nana. Come and sit next to you. Yeah.
Trying to think. Got plasters?
Got one?
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, Tobes, it's horrible being stung by a stinging nettle. They really, is it sting it? Like it comes itchy. It will go. It won't last for that long. It's just the initial sting is
Which one do you
horrible.
want then, Toby? Do you want to choose? Are they all the same?
I don't know. We went and bought a box of
Bit one, yeah.
plasters today, Nana. But Toby likes a plaster for everything at the moment. We're going through a phase of there has to be a plaster for everything. So he's covered in them on his knees. He's got like 5 plasters. Yeah, everything has to have a plaster. Doesn't it? So do a plaster.
Mum?
No, we haven't seen her for a while. I bet she's been really busy. Yeah,
She has been busy.
she
with her
has been.
pictures.
Yeah, she has been really busy.
She's taken them all over the place, you know.
Yeah,
Where's the
she's
thing?
been very busy.
Yeah.
So who's this then, Nana?
So,
On here?
how do you want to
Who are these
That's
pictures?
me.
Like that.
And who's that?
It'll be alright.
Who's this
You're gonna
one?
stay on.
Who's that?
Does that feel?
That's my father.
Is it?
Yeah.
Which one? Where? Talk me through. Who is everybody?
Yeah. Wait a minute, let me put my glasses. Oh, wait.
Where's Nana's glasses? Does anybody know? Nana's glasses?
I don't know. So.
Can you hold that now behind Nana just so I can want to record this? She sees that. She's explaining who it is. She's just looking. If you go and stand.
That's my father.
Hold on, it's all gone a bit funny.
I think. I think it is. I'm not sure. That's Charles.
Is it?
Yes. my
What's he doing
husband.
there?
They were out shooting somewhere.
How
Look what
old
they've
would he
done.
have been there then?
You know, shooting pheasants or what
Yeah.
have
How
you.
old? And you two were together then? Yeah,
No.
that was when you two were married.
Daddy,
No,
why
that was before I was married.
Oh really?
Yeah.
But were you taking the photo? Were you there with them?
No,
Oh, you hadn't met them.
no. We had
Oh.
a book of pictures, and that was in it.
Oh really?
And that's my father, and that's my mother,
Wow.
and that's me,
Look at you now.
and that's
Wow.
Charles. And that's Charles, a handsome-looking man.
Yeah.
And that's me, wedding.
Did you try on wedding dresses before you chose the one that you wanted to wear, or did your mum help you look through to go
No.
wedding shopping?
Now I tell you, we had 24 coupons to last us for 6 months.
Yeah.
If you wanted an overcoat, it took 18 coupons. And a pair of shoes were 7 coupons.
Yeah.
So if you had a pair of shoes and a coat,
Yeah.
you couldn't have anything else in the way of new clothes, underwear or anything,
Whoa.
because it was all on points.
Coupons. Yeah.
Coupons
Yeah.
during the war.
Hold on.
So if you needed a new pair of knickers, you'd had it. Or
Yeah.
bra or anything, you
Yeah.
had it. So if you got a pair of shoes,
I
you had to think hard before you bought anything else. If you wanted a bra, it was 3 coupons.
Whoa.
A pair of pants was 3 coupons.
Oh my goodness.
It was during the war. Everything was rationed.
And did you get a certain amount of coupons per
Yeah.
person?
Yeah.
And
To
children?
last you 6 months.
So children, would they get a certain amount of coupons per child? Or
Yeah,
was it
but
given
only-
out as a family?
Only for 6 months. So if they grew out of something, you couldn't get a pair of shoes. There were 7 for a pair of shoes. So you really
So how
stuck.
many coupons was it per family? So if you
24.
had 3 children or
No.
2 children or one
Yes,
or
well,
one
I
child,
was,
were you?
I was 17. I wasn't having
Oh, you didn't have any children,
No.
so it's just.
But mummy, and if you wanted an overcoat, it was out.
Yeah.
Because if you took an overcoat, that meant that all your coupons had been spent for 6 months.
Yeah.
Because you got 6 months worth of coupons.
Yeah.
Why?
Hold on. First.
Yeah, do you know, I'll show you that.
So how did you choose your wedding dress, Nana? Just 1 second. Just keep recording. Just for
You
a second.
record, I'll
Just-
sort him out.
Okay. Do you want to go in?
I need a poop.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's go do it in the toilet, yeah?
No,
I've got a napkin. Sit in there. Yeah, do you want to sit in there with a napkin?
No.
We're an hour away from home time. It's a long time to hold a poop in.
Why
I
can't I have it?
I don't think. Come on, we'd be alright, Toby. We'll go and sit in there and do it, yeah? It's basically a bit.
This should be valuable, actually.
What is it?
Yeah, let's go.
Oh
A
wow!
ration book.
Wow, cool.
Not to be used after week 4 3 period 2.
Wow.
So chapel, Patricia, that's Patricia's
That was
ration
Pat.
book.
Yeah.
A ration book. And that's Caroline's ration book.
So
We've got a
each
ration
person had a ration book in the family.
Orange juice,
Wow.
orange juice,
Yeah.
And
Oh,
that
wow, I've
went
never
on
seen
to
these. Okay, Corona.
orange juice and cod liver oil. Cod liver oil and cod
Wow.
liver oil.
Oh, yeah. And how many coupons does it say? How much?
Well, for each one, you got a book. And you had one for yourself as well. And these were ration books. So if you wanted meat or anything, it was all ration. You got 4 ounces of meat a week.
Really?
Yeah. Look, in your dress is swirling, can you?
So what was your wedding dress?
That was jolly lucky because...
How did you manage to come across a
Yeah,
wedding dress
well,
at the
my
time of the war?
father-in-law had
Yeah.
a factory.
Yeah,
It did materials.
yeah,
And during the war, he wasn't allowed to do anything but khaki.
yeah,
But in his stock,
yeah.
he had this lace that was there.
Wow.
And he got it out and said, you can have this for your wedding dress.
No!
So I was one who, during the war, had a wedding dress. Lots of people hadn't because you couldn't get it.
And who
Because
made it for you?
even
That
the
was so lucky.
Yard of material was
Yeah.
so many points, you see. Wherever put service entitlement book.
So people who wanted to get married would just wear the clothes that they were in, or just
Would
not.
have something, if they got something new,
Or
it
just-
took their coupons.
Yes.
You know, that was it. It was definitely a coupon. That was Caroline's, and that's Patricia's ration book.
And so your wedding dress came about because this piece of material he had in his factory.
Yeah, they gave it to me. So I was able to make my own wedding dress.
So did you make it?
Yeah.
Where is it now?
The girls played with it.
Yeah.
It's
got cut-
made into clothes for their dollies.
Yeah.
And you must look back and think, how stupid, if only I'd kept it, it would have been an heirloom. But they were
Oh,
making, you
but
know,
that's
Pat
a good-
and Caroline were cutting
I
out
was-
wedding dresses for,
yeah.
yes, for their family. You know, they were dressing up their dolls
Yeah.
and things, so they took the, because material, you couldn't get material. Material
No, you-
at a premium. You had to pay so many coupons for a yard of material. So if you bought a dress, it was, shoes I remember were 7 coupons. And you got 24 coupons for 6 months. So if you bought a pair of shoes, that's 7 out.
yeah.
So you're left with 18. And 18, if you bought a dress, that was 10 coupons. So you've had it. And underwear, knickers were 3 coupons, and bras were 3 coupons, so you had to pick and choose what you want. If I got a bra, can I afford the pants?
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
a pants
My
and a bra,
goodness.
and I can't afford anything else.
Wow.
It was
Things
very
must have been
quite-
really hard.
It was quite
I
hard.
don't know how people would.
it
They,
must have,
what
because
about
everyone
washing
was the
powder?
same.
Yeah, and washing powder.
Oh, yes, that we were able to get washing powder.
So you just have to wash the clothes
Yes,
just
it-
quite a lot, I
But
imagine.
They cut it out, you see, as you used anything, they cut it out.
So did they have nappies? No, you used the towels with a pin
Yeah,
and then wash them.
yeah,
So that's why your children are out of nappies fairly quickly.
yeah. That's why you had nappies. There wasn't such a thing as you can go and buy them on the shop.
No.
You could buy them, but there were nappies in a pack, and they cost points.
With fabric.
Yeah, toweling.
Yeah, the
material.
toweling material.
And thinner material and underneath.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that was points.
So did you have toilets that flushed back in, like when you were a child, when you were 5?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, when the toilet,
oh yeah.
you
but this
had
is when-
flush toilets. That's yeah,
Oh, yes,
that's
that was what. But you
yeah.
didn't put anything down the toilet.
no.
But no, it was when
It was when you're
Caroline and Pat were little when the war was on,
yeah,
not before that,
yeah.
so that wait a minute, no, I'm wrong. I was rationed, so I
You
was
were-
about 17
Yeah.
when
Oh,
the war, which made it very nice because I had a whale of a time because we had the village hop every week and there was Air Force
Oh.
and Army. She's all right.
it's all right.
You don't
Coco,
have to
Coco,
worry.
do you want to sit
Coco,
on Nana's lap?
This is not the dog that
I
you
know.
gave me.
I know. She's very friendly. Do you want to sit on
No,
her?
she's all right.
She can sit on your lap, Nana. Make me
As
feel
I
a bit more
say,
relaxed.
She is not the dog that you gave me.
I
She
know.
now knows, look at her, she's going to lick her. So
Oh.
you don't have to worry, because this is not the dog that you gave me.
I know.
You
She
don't
is
stop
so
talking.
very
This is a
friendly.
dog that's been trained totally different.
Toby. It's alright, eat that one. Right, that your last one.
Does he want a biscuit or anything?
No, I
He's
think
sat
he's
plowing his way through those chocolates.
eating your chocolates, Nana. They're for you.
Oh dear, not too many or it won't.
No, otherwise we'll vomit in the car.
Exactly. No more. No more chocolates. Okay, my darling, you've had enough. Yes, thank you very much. Very sweet of you. Yes, you've had enough. I'm getting a pout. Yeah, a pout.
Yeah.
But it,
How many chocolates have you had, Tobes?
yeah. I think you won't need any tea.
Have you had quite a few chocolates?
Yeah, he has. Yes.
Oh God, would you like is it a chewy one? Is it very,
my-
very chewy?
Oh my goodness me.
Let's have a look. Oh my goodness! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Wow.
Yes.
Tobes, that's a lot of chocolate. Where's it all gone?
I hope he's not going to be sick or anything.
How are you feeling? Chocolate boy? Chocolate in your tummy? Oh my goodness, poor Nana. Well, it's so good that Nana has another layer. So Nana can eat those chocolates tonight.
Headstand.
Oh, headstand, quite very good. Oh, yeah, she's showing you her headstand, Nana. That's her handstand. Very good.
This is not the dog that you gave me.
No.
Oh,
Oh no, not in the mouth. You don't lick the doggy. Does not get. Oh.
This is not the dog you gave me.
No, no.
She's totally loving, careful, licking
Yeah, they were,
everything.
it was going to be tongues between the dog and Quona, and Coco was about to
Lick everyone.
lick with her tongue on
Yes,
Quona's tongue. That's
everything,
gross.
Absolutely. She says it tastes nice. There's something there, chocolatey.
Yeah, there's a doggy. Uh-huh.
Now you're going to have to go and wash your hands.
Yeah.
Yes, you'll go and wash them. He's going to wash his hands.
That's a good idea. That's fine. He
Will
can
he
wash
go
his
to the
hands.
bathroom?
Yeah, he should
Will
go.
he know
What's the
how to use
matter?
the tap?
Yeah. What is it, Quona? Yeah. I'll
Will
go
he
and
know how
see
to
it.
use the tap?
Dog saliva.
Oh, doggy, Coco saliva. But, Toby, can you manage? That's a good idea. Can you manage? Lift it up. That's it. Perfect, Tobes. Well done.
You've got a bit of a cough. You've made a bit of a pickle.
Okay. Let's...
Try
Okay.
that.
Right, we're going in a minute.
Can you get some out now? There you go.
Oh, never mind about the table. It's a table.
What?
It's good.
It's pink fluid. It's going to turn up pink.
That's okay. It's all right.
It's not very worried about the table. It's
No.
a scrubbable table. But these were the ration books during the war.
Give it.
Hold on to this, Toby.
That's Patricia's
There
ration
you go.
Pat's ration book. And that's Caroline's ration book.
Where's Peter's?
Caroline.
Has we got Pete? And
I haven't kept those.
was he
Maybe
still
We all
rationed?
rationed. We all had ration books. And so when you wanted some butter,
Yeah,
you went in
yeah.
and you got half a pound of butter.
Yeah.
And they cut off a ticket for it.
Really?
Yeah, and so you had for everything meat, butter, not jam. Bread was unrationed, so was jam wasn't rationed.
Are there
It
some
didn't-
things that weren't rationed that you can just go into a shop and just buy
Yeah,
and have as
bread.
many as you think
Bread.
if you want?
Bread.
Why is bread not rationed?
No, that wasn't rationed.
Why wasn't that rationed?
Well, because it was luckily people eat a lot of bread.
Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking. So that's a good thing.
And
'cause the-
potatoes weren't rationed, but if you didn't get early enough, the bread would be gone.
Yeah,
So you'd have potatoes weren't rationed.
yeah.
Thank goodness.
Well, that's
And
good.
vegetables were all right if you could get them,
Yeah,
because there was something that grew in our country.
yeah,
Sugar was rationed because we import it.
yeah.
Sugar was rationed. Flour
Oh,
was
yeah.
rationed because again we import quite a bit of flour.
Ah.
What else? Everything else was rationed. Sugar, tea.
Did you have
Oh,
like?
tea
Was
was
that?
rationed.
I bet that was rationed.
Tea was rationed. It was
Yeah.
awful.
What about face cream, eye
Because-
makeup remover, mascara, lipstick?
Oh, no, they didn't. didn't just have it.
You didn't have any lipstick?
I had a few lipstick, if you were lucky to get one.
Did you get one?
When I was only 16, my father would have been horrified.
No. So when did you start wearing lipstick? So you didn't have it.
17, going to dances.
So you managed to find some them a year later. Was that still in the? Was that rationed?
It was
And then you.
rationed. It wasn't rationed, it was scarce.
Did you manage to find one?
Yes.
Who got it for you?
But I
Do you
got
remember?
it in the shop, in the village. But the thing was, it wasn't rationed, but you couldn't get them. There
Oh, really?
All the factories,
Okay, we'll go home in a
all the
minute.
factories were doing ammunition, bullets, guns, everything. So to get anything in the makeup line was a bit difficult.
Really?
Mascara was impossible.
Okay, all right, Tess.
And lipstick. But everything else was rationed.
Oh, so you
If you wanted a bit of rouge, you did lipstick into that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Oh, it was. But everyone was the same, so you never worried about it.
Come on then, we'll go in a minute.
Because
You go for a
we were-
poo.
Because everyone was the same,
I really want to
even
go.
the Queen was rationed. Even though mind you, the fact that our meat was rationed and they could get pheasants and rabbits on was
Yeah,
a
you
bit
can-
difficult. And we were pretty good because we were in the country and Daddy was an auctioneer. So he went out and if there was somebody quietly on the sly
Yeah.
killing a pig, which you weren't allowed to do
Yeah.
unless you registered it,
Yeah.
well, Daddy would come back with some pork and he'd say, whoopee.
Yum, a nice bit of crackling and a bit of pork.
That was rare. Because all these things were rationed. I mean, if you wanted mince, it took to ration it. It's wonderful what you made of lentils,
Yeah.
a lot of lentils and a little bit of meat. Made shepherd's pie.
Yeah.
Because meat was rationed hard. You know, what a funny
We'll go.
noise. You've got a little mouse there.
Is
You
there a
haven't
little
got a
mouse?
person. What a funny noise. But you got all these things were rationed, and those were the ration books we had.
Ah.
Ration books. And each
Right, we want to
person-
go home now.
Yes.
Do you want to go? Why do you want to go home? I know. Well, I said this morning,
bacon,
didn't I, that
cheese,
wherever we're
and
out, because
fats.
I know,
Fats,
Tobes, but we're not going to
eggs,
make it
meat.
home. And so you have to go into
You'd go into
another
the shop and
room.
you'd say, I want
And I'll
some
put.
cheese.
We'll
And
go in
they'd
another
stamp
room.
it. They'd stamp it and give us the amount on our ration card.
Ah.
And take out the
Oh
They cut them
wow.
out. So you only got the amount you're allowed.
How many rations tickets were you? That has to last for 6 months.
You say my mother went shopping.
Okay.
My
Hold on,
mother went
Tobes.
shopping.